Section 31 movie officially makes Michelle Yeoh the Janeway of Star Trek movies. When Paramount officially greenlit Star Trek, Section 31, not only did it confirm Michelle Yeoh's long-awaited return as Emperor Philippa Georgiou, but it also sent a bold message about the role she will play in the future of the franchise. For years, fans of Star Trek, Voyager have celebrated Catherine Janeway Kate Mulgrew as one of the most commanding presences in Trek history, a figure who embodies authority, resilience, and the kind of leadership that defined a whole era of storytelling. With Yeoh leading Section 31, Star Trek is positioning her to become the cinematic equivalent of Janeway, a figure of power, complexity, and indomitable will who can reshape the landscape of Star Trek movies. This isn't just about Yeoh's star power or the long-overdue recognition of her fan-favorite character. The announcement points to a clear intention. Just as Janeway became the heart of Voyager, Yeoh is being entrusted to become the anchor of Trek's cinematic universe. The legacy of Janeway in Star Trek. To understand what Michelle Yeoh's new role means, we need to revisit why Janeway became such a monumental figure. When Voyager launched in 1995, it was already revolutionary. A female captain leading a Star Trek series for the first time wasn't just a casting choice, it was a statement. Janeway wasn't modeled after the stoic, aloof Starfleet leaders of old. She was a scientist, a diplomat, and, when needed, a warrior. Over 7 seasons, she balanced the compassion of a teacher with the authority of a commander forced to make impossible choices. From defying the Borg Queen to guiding her crew home through the Delta Quadrant, Janeway didn't just survive Star Trek's toughest challenges, she redefined what leadership looked like. For fans, she became more than a captain. She was a mentor, a maternal figure, and a bold reminder that Star Trek thrives when it lets its leaders be complicated, vulnerable, and unshakably strong all at once. Why Michelle Yeoh is perfectly positioned. Michelle Yeoh already has the kind of cinematic gravitas that transcends the usual Star Trek archetype. Fresh off her Oscar-winning turn in Everything Everywhere All at Once, Yeoh is at the height of her career, commanding global recognition and a level of prestige that no Trek star has brought into the franchise since Patrick Stewart. Her character, Emperor Georgiou, is also uniquely suited to hold down the moral and dramatic complexity of a movie. Unlike most Starfleet captains, Georgiou is morally gray, ruthless when necessary, but never without purpose. The Mirror Universe background gave her a dangerous edge, while her growth in Discovery showed a willingness to evolve. Just as Janeway balanced empathy with steely resolve, Georgiou balances ruthlessness with unexpected loyalty. She is not a paragon like Picard, nor a cowboy like Kirk. Instead, she represents Star Trek's new cinematic ideal, a flawed but powerful figure capable of carrying both the narrative and the philosophical weight of the franchise. Section 31. Trek's boldest experiment yet. If Voyager was about family, exploration, and survival, Section 31 is shaping up to be its mirror opposite: espionage, secrecy, and moral compromise. The very idea of building a Star Trek movie around Section 31, Starfleet's infamous Black Ops division, signals a tonal departure. But for a movie like this to work, it needs a lead who can embody both authority and ambiguity. Michelle Yeoh fits that role perfectly. Like Janeway, she can command a room with a glance, rally loyalty in the face of overwhelming odds, and shift seamlessly from warmth to terrifying intensity. The film essentially asks audiences to follow Star Trek into its darkest corners, and Yeoh's presence ensures that viewers will trust the journey. Just as Janeway convinced fans to follow her across the Delta Quadrant, Yeoh will convince them to follow her into the shadows of Section 31. The Janeway effect in Star Trek movies. Star Trek movies have always relied on charismatic anchors. Shatner's Kirk brought swagger. Stewart's Picard brought gravitas. Chris Pine's rebooted Kirk brought energy. But there hasn't been a figure who brought Janeway's kind of layered authority to the big screen until now. Janeway wasn't about flash. She was about weight, about the kind of decisions that left audiences debating long after the credits rolled. When she destroyed the caretaker array, or when she allied with the Borg to take down Species 8472, those weren't just plot points. They were moral turning points that reshaped how fans thought about Starfleet values. A Section 31 movie led by Yeoh has the same potential. Instead of big space battles or nostalgia-fueled cameos, the drama will live or die on whether Georgiou can make choices that force the audience to question their own loyalties. That is exactly what Janeway did on Voyager. Yeoh as a cultural anchor. There's also the undeniable fact that Michelle Yeoh is one of the few actors alive who can turn Star Trek into an event again. Her win at the Academy Awards elevated her into global superstardom. She brings audiences who might never otherwise watch a Star Trek movie. This is the same cultural phenomenon that Kate Mulgrew created in the 1990s, albeit in a different way. Mulgrew broke barriers by playing the first female captain. Yeoh, meanwhile, breaks barriers by making an Asian woman the central figure of a Star Trek movie, something unthinkable when the franchise began in the 1960s. In this way, Yeoh is the cinematic heir to Janeway's legacy. Both actresses redefined what a Star Trek leader could look like, and both used their roles to open doors for the next generation of fans and storytellers. The future of Trek's movies rests on her. Paramount has struggled to keep Star Trek movies relevant in the shadow of Marvel and Star Wars. The Kelvin timeline started strong with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek 2009, but fizzled after Star Trek Beyond underperformed. Since then, fans have heard endless rumors of sequels, reboots, and spin-offs. What the franchise needed was not just another Kirk or another Enterprise. It needed a new Axis, a new leader who could carry the weight of Trek into modern cinema. Michelle Yeoh provides exactly that. Like Janeway in Voyager, Georgiou has the potential to become the defining character of a new era. Her movie won't just be another Trek installment. It could be the foundation of an entirely new cinematic branch of the franchise. Why this matters to fans? For longtime Trek fans, this is more than a casting announcement. It's a promise. A promise that Star Trek movies are finally ready to embrace the same boldness and diversity that have made the shows thrive in the streaming era. Janeway once told her crew, "There's coffee in that nebula." It wasn't just a quip, it was a philosophy, a refusal to give up hope even in the darkest times. Michelle Yeoh's Georgiou embodies the same spirit, though expressed through harder, sharper edges. With Yeoh at the helm, fans can expect a movie that doesn't shy away from uncomfortable truths, that isn't afraid to be morally complex, and that still finds a way to capture the essence of Star Trek, exploring the human condition, no matter how messy it gets. Conclusion: a new Janeway for a new era. The announcement of Section 31 confirms what many fans have suspected since Yeoh's first appearance on Discovery, that she is destined to be one of the great figures in Star Trek history. By giving her the cinematic stage, Paramount is officially positioning her as the Janeway of Star Trek movies, a leader who can guide the franchise into uncharted territory with strength, intelligence, and undeniable charisma. Just as Janeway became the anchor of Voyager, Yeoh is set to become the anchor of Star Trek's cinematic future. She represents everything Trek has always strived for: progress, complexity, and the courage to boldly go where no one has gone before. And if that means turning the morally murky shadows of Section 31 into a place where audiences can still find hope, then Michelle Yeoh will have done what Janeway did decades ago: prove that Star Trek is at its best when its leaders aren't just captains, but icons. Would you like me to make this read more like a news-style announcement focusing on the production details and official statements, or more like a deep fan analysis heavier on comparisons and lore?